Hi, I'm Jessica Stutzman from Millcreek Township.
And I'm Chantel Rodriguez. Welcome to the Millcreek Government Channel.
Today, we're honored to speak with Brandon Wiley, CEO of OpenedEyes, to explore how the organization is helping communities build bridges of understanding through diversity education and training. Brandon, thank you so much for being here with us here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Well, so we've never had you on the show before.
Yeah.
And what I want to talk about, can you introduce yourself to our viewers and tell us what inspired you to found OpenedEyes?
Yes. So again, my name is Brandon Wiley. I am the Chief Executive Officer of OpenedEyes, which is an organization that is consultant-based. We conduct trainings, workshops, assessment-based processes to help organizations, school districts become what we call more organizationally well. This is a personal and professional wellness program. It stemmed from when I was in sixth grade in my elementary school. I was asked a very awkward question. Some little girl, and it wasn't meant to be malicious. She was just being curious. But I'm walking down the hallway, and she goes, "Hey, what are you?" And I remember thinking to myself, when I turned around and heard that question, I'd never been asked that question before. And when you think about it, being asked what you are is kind of awkward, right? It's like, well, I think I'm a human being, from this planet. She said, "What are you? You look different." And I still didn't really know what she meant by that. And she said, "You don't look like you're just white. It looks like you might be something else." And so at that time, again, being in sixth grade, my parents were just my parents, right? Like that's all that I knew. And I didn't really think about their race. I didn't think about their culture. But what happened was when she asked me that question, I realized something that, wait, my parents are different. My dad is a black man. My mom is a white woman. That's what that little girl meant when she asked me that question. And what happened from that was these events of being asked the question all the time, but a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression happened to me because I felt like less of a person. And I had a lot of issues with my identity because of that. Instead of embracing it at the time, I was like, is this going to be my curse for the rest of my life? And so I went through life, in therapy. I went through life just trying to find myself, but never really coming to that moment until I got to college, really came to Erie. And I always say this is my Martin Luther King Jr. moment because I had a dream. And I had this dream, and it was about writing a book. And the book was called What Are You? And I remember when I woke from that dream, I was like, wait a minute, I'm all about signs and visions and dreams. So I really take that stuff seriously. And so I thought to myself, why would I write a book and call it this question? And in my reflection, I realized that, wait a minute, this question plagued my life for so long. Maybe it's time for me to reframe its meaning and use it for something self-reflective and positive. And from that moment on, I started writing. And what came from that writing was my business idea, OpenedEyes. And I was like, you know what? I want to create a program that helps with identity and wellness and professionalism and just how to function as a person in our day-to-day.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that story with us. And I think, again, as a young middle schooler, these conversations are absolutely necessary. So, and again, that little girl probably, didn't mean anything by it, but she wanted to learn about you and, get to know you better and for you to go on a life journey from that. How many other people have gone through the same thing?
A lot, right? And I think that was it. What you begin to realize is that, wait a minute, it's not just me. A lot of us, I'd say human nature is to try to find and discover yourself, and that took me, all of that took me to become, I went to school for clinical mental health counseling, a licensed mental health professional by trade. And so it really was just, I'm like, wow, this is the human experience. And what can I create, talk about how we can just communicate and try to find, and celebrate differences, because differences, we're all different and unique in some way, shape, or form. That's culture. And culture isn't just race and ethnicity. Culture is literally everything. It's the embodiment of the human persona. So when I talk about culture, I talk about inclusivity, anything of that nature. I'm talking about what does it mean to understand your culture? What does it mean to be truly inclusive? How can we all sit at the table and try to understand one another. And so it's not so much about just differences, but it's also about commonality. You know, there's a lot of things. If people sat down and actually talked to each other, we probably could find a lot of common things about each other, with each other, than just the surface level thinking or the preconceived notions that we typically have of people. We just got to sit down, slow down, and actually know one.
Yeah, please listen here too, because that's another aspect
Yes.
of that. Like, listening is a part of the well, they're misunderstood or think, oh, don't really have that much. When you really do. I
Absolutely.
mean, even coming down here and us speaking before the show started.
Yeah.
We have a lot in
We have a lot of common. We already displayed that. But you know, you hit a great point, and that's one thing that I talk about in my trainings a lot, in my workshops. And by the way, I don't really like to call what I do as trainings or workshops. OpenedEyes, we call what we do culturally conscious conversation. And the reason I have that model is because it's not just DEI, you know, and I know that's a kind of an oversaturated term. We tend to use that a lot. What we do is just a lot more, you know, personal based, human based. And so the culturally conscious conversation model is rooted in active communication and a concept we call active listening. In the therapeutic realm, active listening is a skill set that we have to practice. What does it mean to be an active listener? Well, it means listening to understand and not listening to respond. And how many people have issues with that? It's not an easy thing to come by. That's why it's a developed skill set. The power of communication, the power of listening is so important, especially in the climate we're in today.
Absolutely. And, you know, there's been a lot of times where I took, you know, cultural anthropology in college and whatnot. So I'm so inquisitive about other cultures. And Chantal and I have had a lot of conversations from, you know, parenting down to, you know,
the food that we eat,
Yes.
the music we listen to, like just everything that can encompass a culture.
Absolutely.
Right. So yeah. So and I love having this discussion here. So
Yeah, and you know, we're going into in-depth conversation here, but what is the mission of guys? Like, what's your goal that and how do you think it evolved over?
Yeah, fantastic question. The mission and vision is to create an inclusive environment that fosters what we call culturally conscious conversation. And what we mean by that is we, in the evolution of OpenedEyes, has really been, you know, again, as I was saying, rooted in a lot of equitable and inclusive practice. But by nature, I'm a therapist, right? I'm a licensed clinician, and so what I realized is that when we're doing our sessions, it's almost like a big therapy session. You know what I mean? And in fact, you know, that's a lot of the data that we collect over the course of time when we leave places is, what did you think about the program? What did you learn? What do you want to learn more about? A lot of the feedback that we were getting was like, hey, do you do any like one-on-ones? Do you do any coaching, counseling? Do you do anything more? Like, I could use this ongoing. Like, people want more. And that was always one of my biggest things when starting this was, I don't want to just come into a space, give some information, and then dip out. I want to come in. My team and we want to come in. We want to offer something sustainable and that you're going to be able to use for the foreseeable future, that you can use in your personal life and your professional life. And so the evolution of OpenedEyes took a turn from just, you know, a training workshop model to really building an environment where we can have these tough discussions, but also go deeper. And people are saying things in our sessions that they may not have thought they were going to say amongst their peers. And it makes them very vulnerable, which is scary. We all know vulnerability is a scary thing. Like, nobody wants to just bare their soul all the time. But the beauty in that is that it showcases that, wait a minute, there's other people who are going through things. And we have to look at each other, obviously, not just on the external framework, but also what's on the inside of a person. And we all go through things. I don't care who you are. We're all going through things. We all have biases. We all have perceptions. We all grew up, you know, believing something. We've had experiences in life that maybe have shaped or formed our thought process, you know, whether it's good or bad. But the point of this is to discover those areas or things that may not be so good. And it's like, how can we take that, reframe it, rewire it, and how can we use it to be better people in our personal lives and profession? So that's been the evolution.
So, with the kinds of programs and services that Opened Eyes offers to the community, do you follow a certain formula, or are you tailored to each and every client?
So we have three different programs. We have a program called Transformational Change. We have a program called Lens, which is our development program, and we have a leadership development program. So basically, corporations, businesses, organizations, they typically go for the transformational change because that's more of the organizational wellness piece that we have. So those are like some introductory sessions, what we call culturally conscious conversation 101 and 102 that you have to go through before you can get to the other sessions. And those are just sessions to help kind of introduce certain concepts, just to kind of lay a foundation of information so we can dive deeper into the other areas that they typically need. But we go through an assessment-based process. So we do a pre-assessment with all of our organizations just to get a climate measure of what the group dynamics are, what the organization is like, what people know, what they don't know. And that better helps us navigate how we're going to come into the session. But we have our program pretty well set, but we do tailor it to the environment that we are in. Yeah.
And I'd imagine, again, you're probably your first session, and people are probably reserved and
Yes.
shy and scared to ask questions and contribute. So, leading into session 2 and session 3 kind of starts to open the doors for that open, honest dialogue.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the dynamic of therapy, right? You have to build rapport with people. And that's essential. That's important. What keeps people going back to their healthcare provider, to their therapist, is that they feel like they have a connection with them. So I want to build that connection, even though we might not have much time to initially do that. I forget what it is, but people kind of make a judgment on you in like 30 seconds to a minute. So what you say, what you open up with, the energy that you give, what you put off, it's important. Rapport, connection, relationship is very important. In our Lens program for our kids, we focus on 3 areas called perception, active communication, and resiliency. So a lot of schools will hire us to come in and do assembly style type of conversations with like their larger groups. I mean, we've been in Philadelphia, we've been in Pittsburgh, we've been obviously locally. And so it's great to kind of get out and to do different demographics. And then, of course, to switch it up to say, hey, now we're in the corporate world, and doing work in that set. So our program is very multifaceted, and it really adjusts to the demographic that we're coaching to.
That's fantastic. And how big is your team?
So we have about 11 people on staff, 5 leadership. And again, we have coordinators for our youth development program. We do some subcontracting too for our consultants and presentations. So it extends beyond that too. We have a lot of volunteers.
The partnerships that you have with like Erie's Black Wall Street.
Yes.
And just seeing the assemblies that you do with the large crowds of kids who are so engaged in the conversations too. I mean, it really shows in the photos that you put out there. These kids are listening to every single thing that you're saying, and I think that they're taking a lot back home and sharing with friends. So I think that's something wonderful that you can really like pat yourself and your team on the back. Like you guys are doing an amazing job out there.
Thank you.
And I know I spoke a little bit about Erie's Black Wall Street, but what partnerships or collaborations have been most impactful for your organization?
Wow, yeah, of course, yeah. Erie's Black Wall Street, Erie Insurance, Erie Federal Credit Union. We have done work with them, and I consider those partners because they believe in us, they support us, and they have us come into their space with their people. They invite us to their events. Hey, you want to set up a table? You want to do this? You want to do that? That's collaboration. We help each other out. And so those things are just really important, and they're beautiful, and the support is beautiful. Again, for us to have to come in and for these organizations to say, hey, we're going to put our employees through your program because we trust and we believe in what it is that you got going on, that means everything to me. And to be able to build off of that, that's community engagement, right? That's what helps push things forward, is when we're able to, because there's no one group, there's no one person that is going to be able to do all this just by themselves. We have to collaborate. We have to be cohesive. So partnerships like those are very important to us. And again, so many others that I'm not even, again, in university, we work with so many different groups. So it's really important.
And how can, and we've mentioned some of the businesses, but how can individuals, families, businesses get involved or support OpenedEyes?
Sure, absolutely. Well, of course, all of our socials, we're on Facebook, OpenedEyes, one word. Our website's www.openedeyes.org. You can go there, check out our program. You can check out our information about our programs and what we offer. Volunteer opportunities. We are always welcoming volunteers. And so, again, this is a community effort, and it's not just one person, it's many people.
Brandon, I want to thank you so much for being here today and having this conversation, starting this conversation with us today. And our show is coming to a close, but and I just want to give you just one last second here to leave our viewers and our audience with anything that you want to share that's gonna, be that one last thing that they remember.
Sure. Wellness. Make sure you take care of yourselves. That's at the end of the day, we're all suffering. We're all going through some things. We might have some past traumas. We might have some things that we're looking ahead on and are afraid about. But just be in the moment. Take care of yourself, mind, body, and spirit. And when you're good to you, you can be good to everything else.
That's beautiful.
And I think it's only fitting that it's May, so it's mental health awareness.
Be shout out for that.
Exactly.
Pointing that out.
Yeah, so I think it's perfect that you came at the perfect time. Timing was everything today.
Yes, it was.
So it was really nice to have you here today.
Absolutely. It was nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Thank
of
you.
course.
Yeah.
Viewers, thank you for joining us for today's conversation with OpenedEyes. To learn more about their diversity and inclusion programs, take care, and thank you for watching the Millcreek Government Channel.